Shalom, Chaverim, my dear friends. This is YouTube number 9 out of the series of Russia-Ukraine, but this will not deal so much with Russia-Ukraine. Rather, it will deal more with what is happening now with the rise of ISIS. Actually, I'm working now on my 7th book, which will be called ISIS, Iran, Mecca. The subtitle will be The Perfect Storm. And what I want to do now is talk about different aspects of the Iranian plans to overthrow the Saudi regime and to impose Shiite Islam on the Sunni Muslims and to lead the Islamic world battle against the West. Of course, Iran is virulently against the West, and Iran is backed by Russia. So what we see here, firstly, in general terms, is we see two different types of proxy war. The one world government, which I spoke about in the previous YouTube, which is the United States, Europe, Vatican, is backing the Sunni Muslims, and the Russians, the Chinese, North Koreans, Iran are backing the Shiite side. This is a war that's been going on for 1,400 years, and this is a war to the finish. This is not a war in which either side can win. Both the Sunnis and the Shiites are going to lose, and I'm going to explain why. The Iranians were very, very pro-Western until 1979. The Shah of Iran was a modernist, he was a Westerner, and he actually, together with the Israelis and the Americans, began the nuclear project, which is so infamous now in Iran, because now the Ayatollahs simply took it over and are now preparing to make atomic bombs with which to destroy Israel. This YouTube is now being taped on February the 26th. Prime Minister Netanyahu will be scheduled to speak in Washington on the 4th, I believe, 4th of March, which is less than a week away. And many people are watching very carefully what Prime Minister Netanyahu says, because the supposed agreement between the Western powers and President Obama and Iran are that Iran will be allowed to continue producing enriched uranium with 6,500 centrifuges. And supposedly this is not enough to make a bomb. The problem with this is that Pakistan created 18 nuclear weapons with 6,000 centrifuges. So Israel cannot have the wool pulled over its eyes. Israel cannot commit suicide. And Israel will not tolerate this shenanigans that is going on between the Iranian Shiite regime and, of course, the Western powers, including President Obama, who are just so ready to throw Israel under the bus, meaning the destruction of Israel. I want to repeat, my wife Rachel has been working for 30 years with the Israeli radio services. She monitors the Arabic language broadcast because her language is Arabic. And she picked up a broadcast. Again, I recommend to all of you to see the YouTube Saudi Plant, P-L-A-N-T, by P.P. Simmons, also commonly known as Pastor Carl Gallups. And this YouTube by Pastor Gallups faithfully reflects the information that my wife gave to me and that I gave out in the churches and on a TV show I did with Gary Stearman, Prophecy in the News at that time. And the gist was that President Obama is the son of a Muslim in Kenya. He was in Egypt. Obama was in Egypt in 2009, and he swore to the Egyptian Foreign Minister, Abu Ghraib, that he was a Muslim, that his father was a Muslim, that his stepfather was a Muslim, that he was raised in a mosque and in a madrasa till age 11, and he swore, "I'm a Muslim," he said. And he said, "I've got Obamacare problems to deal with in America, I've got economic problems. Wall Street now is at 18,000. It was at 6,000 when President Obama assumed the presidency. Now, all of a sudden, after 6 years, it's up to 18,000. Of course, under the influence of massive pumping of cash into the U.S. economy by the Saudis, by other Muslim countries, there's a deal here, As long as you're in bed with the Muslims, your economy will do well, at least for now. And he said, when I overcome the economic problems of America, and America is pulling out of the recession, when I overcome the Obamacare problems, Obamacare is pulling out of whatever problems it had. Obama swore to Abu Ghait, the Egyptian foreign minister, on January 19, 2010, he said, I swear I will show the Muslim world what I'm going to do to Israel, meaning to destroy Israel. Rachel picked up other broadcasts in which the Saudis said to Obama very clearly, Obama has 3 commands from the Saudi king. Command number 1 is to destroy the Shiite regime in Iran. So it seems like at this time, Obama is giving in. But I will explain what that means. It's a trick. Obama is giving in order to force Israel to destroy the Iranian regime and to attack militarily the Iranian nuclear project. So, plan number 1 is to bring down the Shiite regime of the Ayatollahs in Iran through an Israeli attack, which Israel will have no choice but to do with where Obama is going right now. Secondly, destroy Israel. In other words, let the Israelis and the Iranians duke it out. Let Israel attack Iran. Iran claims it can wipe Israel off the face of the map in 10 minutes. Shows how wonderfully peaceful Iran is. And so destroy Iran, destroy Israel at the same time, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then the third command is to make America a Muslim country. President Obama was brought in by a certain agenda, which got him elected a first time, re-elected a second time, and now the plan is to bring in tens of millions of Muslims into the United States as refugees. And as I explained in previous YouTubes, this is all part of a plan to bring up the population of NAFTA, in other words, US, Mexico, and Canada, to supersede or at least to be equal to Europe, which will unite with Turkey and the Turkish former Soviet citizens. In other words, 620 million people in the Turkic European Union, as opposed to 620 million people in the Canadian, American, Mexican, and Islamic North American Union. So the plan here is for America to become Muslim. Christianity is being suppressed. Today, Homeland Security in America, in its manual, says that the terrorists are the Christians. President Obama will never say Islamic terrorism in one breath. He will not attack Islam in any way. He has said in his book that when things get bad, he will be with the Muslim side. And so, as opposed to what my wife says, that he is working with Iran, yes, he's working with Iran in order to push Israel into a corner to have to defend itself. I don't know yet what Prime Minister Netanyahu will say in Washington, in Congress. I believe that there is indeed an existential threat to Israel if Iran is allowed, through this agreement being drawn up now, to continue producing enriched uranium, giving it the ability to be a breakout nation and have 18 nuclear weapons, just like Pakistan with 6,000 centrifuges. So the threat of ISIS, and this is now going to be the heart of my 7th book. ISIS, which was formed primarily by Saudi-backed, Turkish-backed, and American-backed Sunnis, it was part of what was called the Sunni surge in Iraq, as opposed to the pro-Iranian, pro-Shiite government in Baghdad. The problem was that this got out of hand, and ISIS basically was the monster that turned on its creators. Saudi Arabia is basically an ISIS ideology as well. But Saudi Arabia is led by what the ISIS people call as a corrupt, degenerate royal family that goes off to prostitution, drinking, and gambling in Europe, enjoys the fruits of what the West has to give them, including the immorality, and while the Saudi people are suffering from 40% unemployment, 92% of the Saudi people support ISIS. So ISIS at this time has been suffering a lot of defeats in Syria, in Iraq. It was a terrible mistake for the ISIS people to burn the Jordanian pilot. Now Jordan has turned very much against ISIS. But ISIS today is backed by 92% of the Saudi people. In other words, you have the 6,000 royal princes, and then you have the rest of the people, of which about 7-8% of the population in the oil-producing provinces are Shiites. I predict that, looking at my time, I predict that Iran, through its proxies and through its military, will block the Straits of Hormuz, especially after an Israeli attack. Iran will invade countries like Bahrain, which are 70% Shiite and would support an Iranian invasion, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Kuwait, which are at least 50-50. Saudi Arabia is going to face an invasion from the east by the Shiites. What very few people are looking at strategically is the power of these Houthi militia people in Yemen who have bypassed an American-trained Yemenite military, Yemenite government, and installed a pro-Iranian government in Yemen, in Sana'a. Now, I know that most Americans have never heard of the city of Sana'a, or even Yemen, perhaps. If you know your Bible, it's there. Yemen is very much predominantly there. Moses and the children of Israel were there. Sana'a and the northern part of Yemen, which is where the Houthis are, is 8 hours away driving from the holy city of Mecca. In other words, the Iranians now are poised to invade Saudi Arabia from the south, from Yemen. There's a coastal road that goes straight to Mecca. So ISIS, which is to the north, will come in from the north to save the Sunni control of Mecca and Medina. But the problem is that ISIS hates the king. Excuse me, wants the king dead, wants the royal family decapitated, because they're all infidels and heretics and traitors and collaborators with the West. So ISIS wants to take over Saudi Arabia, coming in from the north, Iran coming in from the east. This is going to be a major religious battle between Shiites and Sunnis. Houthis coming in from the south, and the Egyptian army, which will be financed by the Saudi royal family, will come in from the west to save the royal family. So this is what I call the makings of a perfect storm. This is going to be the gist of my 7th book, which is what I'm working on now. Hopefully by Passover the book will be ready. I'll come to the States and print the book, get it out to all those who are interested. I hope it'll be a bestseller like my other books. But like I said before, these are the makings for a perfect storm in Saudi Arabia. And one of the things that may sound very incredible to all of you watching this YouTube, I think it might even be possible that the king of Saudi Arabia will beg Israel to come in to the northwestern part of Saudi Arabia to help save the kingdom. Saudi Arabia will give a green light to Israeli Air Force planes to attack Iran over Saudi territory. But what we might see indeed is Israel being invited to play a role in the civil war against the Shiites and in defense of the royal king of Saudi Arabia. The question is, will ISIS succeed in overthrowing the royal family and killing everyone? And then will they blow up the oil wells? And then what will the one world government do about that? God bless all of you, and shalom.